Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the brutal life of the Virgin Queen Elizabeth II, where crowns weigh heavier than chains, and every shadow hides a dagger poised to strike. Did you know that in the treacherous Tudor court, a young princess like Elizabeth survived not one but multiple imprisonments before her 21st birthday, all while her own family plotted her downfall? Historians still debate if her half-sister Mary truly believed she was a witch, or just a threat to the throne. Imagine being locked away at age 20, your every breath scrutinized, wondering if the next meal might be your last, laced with poison from those who should protect you. What would you do if the walls themselves whispered accusations of treason? And here's the absurd twist. Royal children back then wore gloves made from inflated pig bladders to practice archery without bruising. A far cry from today's padded safety gear, yet far more sinister in a world where innocence was a luxury few could afford. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel the chill of the tower walls seeping into your bones like icy fingers clutching at your very soul. The damp stone pressing against your thin gown as if the fortress itself resents your presence. A young girl thrust into this grim labyrinth of suspicion and hidden daggers, where every creak of the ancient doors echoes like a judgment from the grave. The air hangs heavy with the musty scent of wet wool from your cloak, soaked by the relentless London fog that sneaks through the arrow slits, mingling with the faint metallic tang of rust from the iron bars that cage you in. A taste that lingers on your tongue like the bitterness of betrayal from those you once called family. You pace the narrow cell, your footsteps muffled on the straw-strewn floor that's alive with the scuttle of unseen rats, their tiny claws scratching like whispers of conspiracy. And you can't help but shiver as torchlight flickers through the grille, casting elongated shadows that dance mockingly on the walls, twisting ordinary shapes into grotesque figures of spies and executioners lurking just out of sight. In this moment, historians still argue whether your imprisonment here at age 20 was truly for treason or merely a sister's paranoid ploy to eliminate a rival. But you know the truth in your pounding heart. It's the curse of your bloodline. The Tudor legacy of fractured loyalties where fathers behead mothers and siblings eye thrones with murderous envy. You recall the absurd tidbit of court life. How even as a child you were taught to curtsy with a fan made from ostrich feathers dyed in blood-red hues to symbolize unwavering allegiance. Yet here you are, stripped of such finery, your small hands gripping the cold bars as if they could bend under your will, a will that's hardening like forged steel amid this injustice. Worse than waiting on hold with Comcast during a blackout, this endless vigil tests your spirit, the hours blurring into days where guards deliver meager bread and water, with grunts that carry veiled threats, their eyes scanning you for signs of weakness, and you force a defiant smile, whispering prayers under your breath to a god who seems distant in this forsaken place. The physical ache sets in as you huddle against the wall for warmth, your joints protesting the unyielding stone that bruises your knees during long nights of kneeling in supplication, begging for mercy from a queen who once shared your nursery, but now sees you as a serpent in her garden. A shocking wave of sadness washes over you when memories flood back of carefree days at Hatfield House, chasing butterflies in sun-dappled meadows, only to be shattered by the news of your mother's execution. Anne Boleyn's head rolling on Tower Green just beyond these walls, her final words echoing in your mind like a haunting lullaby that warns of love's fatal price. You zoom out for a breath, imagining the vast Thames flowing indifferently below, carrying secrets of the realm downstream where kings rise and fall like autumn leaves. And in that poetic expanse, you find a sliver of empathy for yourself, a child navigating a world where innocence is the first casualty. Sarcasm creeps in as you mutter to the shadows, thinking how modern royals complain about paparazzi while you dodge literal axes, the irony biting sharper than the chill air that nips at your exposed neck. The torchlight mutates now, its flicker growing erratic like your racing thoughts, illuminating faded graffiti on the walls scratched by previous prisoners' names, dates, desperate pleas that mirror your own turmoil, and you trace them with a trembling finger, feeling the rough etchings as if absorbing their faded strength. A factual thread weaves through your isolation. This tower, built by William the Conqueror centuries ago, has held saints and sinners alike. From Thomas More pondering faith before his beheading to your own father, Henry VIII imprisoning wives on whims, a cycle of royal madness that now ensnares you. The sensory struggle intensifies as hunger gnaws at your stomach, a hollow pain that rivals the emotional void left by absent allies. Those courtiers who once flattered you now silent, their loyalty as fleeting as morning mist. You confront a sad element in the quiet hours, realizing your half-brother Edward's fragile health leaves the throne precarious, and whispers reach you through sympathetic guards that Mary, your sister, fueled by Catholic zeal, views your Protestant leanings as heresy, a divide that could end with your blood staining the scaffold like so many before. Light sarcasm bubbles up again as you imagine tweeting your plight if such things existed, #TowerLife. Worse than a bad Airbnb review with 0 stars for amenities, and it brings a wry chuckle that echoes hollowly, a small rebellion against the encroaching despair. The absurd historical tidbit surfaces in your mind. Prisoners like you were sometimes allowed pet ravens, believed to ward off evil spirits according to old folklore, yet no such companion graces your cell, leaving you alone with the ghosts of executed queens. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your composure here forged the steel-willed monarch you'd become, or if it planted seeds of paranoia that would haunt your reign. But in this instant, you focus on survival, drawing shallow breaths to steady the panic rising like bile. As the day fades, the wet wool of your cloak clings heavier, its dampness mutating into a clammy embrace that mirrors the injustice wrapping around your future. And you peer through the grille at the darkening sky, stars peeking like indifferent eyes, wondering if freedom will ever dawn, or if this chill will become your eternal shroud. The psychological chill settles deep, a question hanging in the air like unspoken doom. What hidden daggers await when the cell door finally swings open, pulling you deeper into the web of royal suspicion that threatens to consume your youth? Your breath catches as the damp stone walls of your cell in Woodstock Palace press closer, the air thick with the sour stench of mildew and despair, as if the very walls are exhaling centuries of forgotten prisoners' woes, and you feel the prickling weight of isolation wrapping around you like a shroud, tighter than any modern-day social media exile could ever hope to mimic. The straw beneath your feet is slick with moisture, squelching under your thin slippers, each step a reminder of the filth that surrounds you, a far cry from the velvet cushions of your childhood at Hatfield. Now a distant memory mocked by the cold reality of your confinement. Torchlight barely reaches this forsaken corner, its faint glow stuttering through a high, narrow window, casting jagged shadows that twist like the accusations that landed you here. A 21-year-old princess branded a traitor by your own sister's court. You clutch a tattered prayer book, its leather cover worn smooth by anxious fingers, the pages smelling faintly of dust and old ink, a fragile tether to a world that seems to have abandoned you, while the metallic tang of rust from the iron lock bites at your tongue, a bitter reminder of the injustice chaining your future. Historians still argue whether Queen Mary's wrath stemmed from genuine fear of your Protestant leanings, or mere jealousy of your youth and charm. But you feel the truth in the hollow ache of your chest. Family ties mean nothing when thrones are at stake, and blood is just another currency in the Tudor game of power. An absurd tidbit flickers in your mind. Prisoners like you are sometimes fed posset, a curdled milk drink laced with ale, believed to ward off plague but tasting like regret gone sour. Imagine chugging that while scrolling through doom-laden ex-posts about your own trial. The physical struggle is relentless. Your shoulders ache from huddling against the damp wall, trying to steal warmth from a thin blanket that smells of wet wool gone stale, its fibers clinging to your skin like a lover who won't let go. You hear the distant clatter of guards' boots, each step spiking your pulse with the dread of another interrogation, their questions sharp as the quills that scribe your supposed crimes, accusing you of plotting with rebels like Thomas Wyatt, whose failed uprising against Mary's Catholic reign has painted you guilty by association. A shocking sadness grips you as you recall your mother Anne Boleyn's fate, her neck severed on Tower Green when you were barely 3, her laughter now a ghost that haunts these walls, whispering that love and loyalty are traps set by those closest to you. You zoom out for a moment. The world beyond this cell stretching vast and uncaring, where London's muddy streets pulse with gossip about your fate, and the Thames carries whispers of rebellion downstream, indifferent to a princess's plight. Sarcasm bubbles up as you imagine modern tabloids splashing your mugshot with headlines like Royal Rebel or Witchy Sister. A bitter chuckle escapes, swallowed by the silence. Worse than buffering on a Netflix cliffhanger with no Wi-Fi. The torchlight mutates now, its flicker dimming to a sickly glow, mirroring the fading hope in your heart as you trace the rough stone with a fingertip, feeling the grooves carved by others who waited here. Their names lost, but their despair etched eternal. A factual thread anchors you this palace, once a royal hunting lodge, became your prison in 1554 after Wyatt's rebellion. A move historians say was Mary's attempt to neutralize you without spilling royal blood, though her mercy feels like a blade held just above your neck. The sensory struggle deepens as hunger gnaws, a dull pain sharper than the injustice of being punished for crimes you didn't commit. Your body weakening while your mind sharpens, plotting survival like a chess game where every move risks checkmate. You confront the emotional toll, the sting of betrayal from courtiers who once bowed to you now turning their backs, their silence louder than any accusation, leaving you to wonder if allies like Robert Dudley, your childhood friend, still dare to whisper your name in support, or if they've joined the chorus of turncoats. Light sarcasm creeps in again as you mutter to the damp walls, wishing for a group chat to rally support, knowing even a viral hashtag wouldn't save you from this medieval mess. An absurd historical detail surfaces prisoners were sometimes allowed to embroider silk purses to pass the time. A futile task, you imagine, as akin to knitting during a Zoom meeting from hell. Yet you have no such distraction, only your thoughts and the cold. The academic debate lingers. Did this imprisonment forge your cunning diplomacy, or sow the seeds of paranoia that would define your reign? But you push it aside, focusing on the faint sound of a distant bell, signaling another day of captivity. The wet wool motif mutates into a heavier burden, the blanket now a sodden weight dragging at your spirit, mirroring the injustice of a crown you might never wear. And as you sink to the floor, the straw biting at your knees, a question coils in your mind like smoke. What will it cost to escape this cage? And who will you have to become to survive the treachery awaiting beyond these walls? You step into the opulent halls of Whitehall Palace, the air thick with the acrid smoke of beeswax candles sputtering in golden sconces, their flickering light casting elongated shadows that slither across tapestries like serpents in a garden of deceit. And you wonder if this newfound freedom after Woodstock's chill is merely a gilded cage where every smile conceals a veiled threat sharper than the daggers hidden in courtiers' sleeves. The scent of smoky intrigue envelops you, a heady mix of frankincense from the chapel altars and the faint metallic tang of polished armor worn by guards who eye you with suspicion, their gazes prickling your skin like invisible pins. A sensory echo of the damp stone that once bruised your knees, but now mutated into the subtle sting of velvet gowns brushing against your legs, heavy with embroidery that weighs as much as the expectations thrust upon a princess teetering on the edge of power. Your heart pounds in rhythm with the distant thud of boots on marble floors, each beat a reminder of the rising enemies who circle like vultures, their whispers carrying the bitter aftertaste of iron on your teeth from clenching your jaw against the injustice of a court where loyalty shifts like sand in an hourglass. You forge uneasy alliances amid this chaos, extending a gloved hand to nobles like Sir William Cecil, whose sharp eyes promise counsel, but hide ambitions that could topple you as easily as they prop you up. And you feel the physical tremor of uncertainty as you navigate banquets where laughter rings hollow, the rich aroma of roasted venison mingling with the underlying filth of political maneuvering, plates laden with delicacies that might be laced with arsenic by those who lost kin in the Wyatt Rebellion you were falsely accused of aiding. Historians still debate whether your sister Mary's deathbed reconciliation with you in 1558 was genuine mercy, or a calculated ploy to secure Catholic continuity. But you sense the truth in the cold grip of her hand during that final visit. A shocking sadness that her fevered eyes held not forgiveness but resignation, leaving you to inherit a realm fractured by religious divides and familial scars that fester like untreated wounds. An absurd tidbit crosses your mind amid the swirl courtiers back then used perfumed pomanders, hollow oranges stuffed with cloves, to mask the body's odours during long audiences. A futile attempt at freshness in a world where hygiene was as rare as true friends imagined spritzing Febreze in a boardroom full of backstabbers, yet far less effective against the stench of betrayal. The sensory struggle intensifies as you attend council meetings. The heavy oak table sticky with wax drippings from overflowing candles, your fingers tracing the carved lions that symbolize Tudor strength, but feel like mocking reminders of your lost family. Edward dead, too young from illness, and Mary now gone. Her Catholic fervour leaving a legacy of rising enemies among Protestant lords who view you as their saviour or pawn. You zoom out for a breath, the palace sprawling like a labyrinth of ambition, where the Thames laps indifferently at its foundations, carrying away the detritus of failed plots and broken oaths, and in that vast poetic expanse, you find a sliver of empathy for the ghosts of your parents. Henry's tyrannical reforms and Anne's ambitious fall echoing through these halls like faint echoes in a storm. Sarcasm creeps in as you overhear a duke's flattery, thinking how modern politicians spin scandals on social media while you dodge literal poison pens. A wry twist that brings a silent chuckle amid the tension, worse than scrolling through a feed of fake news during election season. The torchlight motif mutates here, its warm glow reflecting off jeweled goblets during feasts, but casting deceptive halos around faces that mask enmity, illuminating the factual undercurrents of court politics where alliances like yours with Cecil lay the groundwork for what historians call the Elizabethan settlement, a precarious balance of Protestantism and Catholic tolerance designed to quell the rising enemies fueled by papal excommunications and Spanish whispers of invasion. A physical event unfolds as you receive a coded letter from a supposed ally, your hands trembling as you break the seal, the wax cracking like brittle bones, revealing veiled threats from Catholic factions who see your ascension as heresy, their words stinging sharper than the injustice of being forever marked by your mother's scandalous execution, a sad element that haunts your every negotiation, lightly shadowed by the knowledge that one wrong alliance could end with your head on a spike. You counter with clever commentary to your inner circle, murmuring that politics is like a chess game where pawns dream of queenship, but queens fear the board's hidden traps, a light sarcasm that steals your resolve amid the pounding heartbeats of uncertainty. The wet wool sensory motif evolves into the damp silk of your sleeves after a rain-soaked ride from Richmond, clinging uncomfortably as you meet with ambassadors whose smiles hide agendas, their foreign accents carrying the prickling unease of potential betrayal, and you weave uneasy bonds with them, promising trade while guarding against espionage that could unravel your fragile hold. Another modern comparison surfaces, forging these alliances feels like swiping right on a dating app full of catfishes, where one mismatch could delete your entire profile permanently. The absurd historical tidbit emerges in a quiet moment. Tudor courtiers often wore ruffs stiffened with starch made from wheat, a luxury that could cause skin rashes like an allergic reaction to gluten in a gluten-free era. Yet you endure it, the itch mirroring the irritation of dealing with sycophants who pledge fealty but plot in shadows. Academic uncertainty hovers as scholars argue if your adept handling of these early politics stemmed from innate cunning or lessons learned in Woodstock's isolation. But you press on, heart still racing from the veiled threats that lurk in every bowed head and curtsy. The shocking element strikes when a servant whispers of a foiled assassination attempt, poison meant for your wine cup intercepted by a loyal maid, a lightly dramatized horror that leaves you tasting fear's metallic edge anew, amid the sting of realizing even family ghosts like your cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, loom as rising enemies from afar. You respond with deep empathy for the common folk outside these walls, whose lives hang on your decisions, a poetic reflection that widens your perspective to the realm's vast tapestry, where threads of loyalty and treachery intertwine like vines choking a garden. Light sarcasm returns as you quip to Cecil that court is like a reality TV show, where alliances form and shatter faster than votes on eviction night. A clever commentary that eases the tension for a moment. The iron-on-teeth motif mutates into the sharp bite of a quill as you sign decrees, ink smudging your fingers like blood from unseen wounds, symbolizing the ongoing struggle against enemies who multiply like shadows at dusk. As the evening deepens, the smoky air grows thicker with incense from evening prayers, a ritual that offers fleeting solace amid the pounding threats, and you retire to your chambers, the heavy curtains drawn against prying eyes, wondering what new intrigues dawn will bring, the psychological chill settling like frost on a window pane. blurring the line between ally and adversary in this endless dance of power. You feel the sharp ache of a forbidden letter crumpling in your fist, its ink still fresh with words of affection that could doom you both, as the weight of societal chains binds you tighter than any iron shackle, forcing you to question if love in this Tudor world is merely a poison sweeter than arsenic. Did you know that Elizabeth once received over 20 marriage proposals from kings and dukes, each one a trap disguised as salvation, with historians debating whether her rejections were born of trauma from her mother's beheading or a calculated vow to rule alone? The parchment's texture rasps against your palm like rough silk frayed by secrets, the faint scent of rosewater clinging to it from the sender's hand, a visceral reminder of vulnerability in a court where every touch could be treasonous, and you hide it swiftly beneath your gown, the fabric's heavy brocade pressing against your skin like an unwelcome embrace, mutating the wet wool motif from your earlier isolations into a suffocating layer of embroidered restraint that itches with the injustice of denied desires. Your fingers tremble as you seal away the missive from Robert Dudley, your childhood companion whose dark eyes and whispered promises stir a warmth that defies the cold expectations of virginity thrust upon you as queen-in-waiting. The air in your private chamber thick with the smoky residue of a dying fire, its embers glowing faintly like the forbidden spark in your heart that society demands you extinguish. The sensory struggle gnaws at you as you pace the room, the floorboards creaking under your slippers like accusations from the grave, each step sending a prickling unease up your spine, a mutated echo of the damp stone that once chilled your bones, now transformed into the invisible chains of propriety that bind your every impulse, leaving you breathless with the effort to appear untouched, unyielding, a virgin queen in a realm where women are pawns or perils. A physical event unfolds in the dim light as Dudley steals a moment alone with you in the gardens, his hand brushing yours amid the thorny roses, their petals soft yet edged with barbs that draw a drop of blood, the metallic tang on your tongue intensifying as you pull away, knowing one witnessed glance could brand you both traitors, his loyalty to you a double-edged sword in a court rife with whispers of scandal. Historians still argue whether your bond with Dudley was platonic devotion or a passionate affair stifled by politics, but you feel the truth in the sharp ache of your chest, a shocking sadness that his marriage to another only heightens the injustice, leaving you to navigate love's labyrinth alone, your heart a fortress besieged by duty. An absurd tidbit flickers through your mind amid the turmoil Tudor lovers often exchanged, posy rings, engraved with secret poems inside the band, hidden messages of devotion that could be read only when worn, a romantic gesture far more perilous than sliding into DMs on a dating app gone wrong, yet carrying the same risk of exposure and ruin. The torchlight motif mutates here, its warm flicker from a nearby candelabrum casting deceptive glows on Dudley's face during stolen meetings, illuminating the lines of worry etched there, factual reflections of his own imprisonments for supporting you against Mary, a surprising twist where the man who once rode with you in carefree hunts now risks everything for a glance, his surprising elevation to master of the horse, a clever cover for proximity that only deepens the chains binding you both. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace gardens stretching like a verdant veil over the turbulent Thames below, where barges carry courtiers' secrets downstream to mingle with the mud. And in that lyrical expanse, you glimpse the vast loneliness of a crown that demands solitude, empathy swelling for the women before you who fell to love's blade, your mother Anne, accused of adultery and beheaded, her fate a lightly dramatized horror that haunts your every hesitation. Sarcasm slips in as you imagine modern rom-coms where forbidden love ends in happily ever after, muttering that your story would be rated R for royal restrictions, worse than ghosting a match on Tinder after a promising first date, yet laced with the bitter irony that vulnerability here invites not heartbreak but the headsman's axe. The iron-on-teeth motif evolves into the sharp bite of a quill as you draft a coded response to Dudley, ink staining your fingers like guilt, the parchment absorbing your unspoken longings amid the factual pressures of foreign suitors like Philip of Spain, whose proposals carry the threat of Catholic dominance, a sad element where denying love means denying alliances that could stabilize your realm but chain you to a husband who views you as a conquest. You endure another physical tussle during a masked ball, the swirling dances forcing proximity to potential matches, your body aching from the rigid corset that symbolizes the societal binds demanding virginity, the heavy skirts swirling like waves of expectation, prickling your skin with beads of sweat as you deflect advances with witty barbs, feeling the injustice of a world where a queen's body belongs to the state, not herself. A modern comparison arises unbidden. It's like being on a reality show where contestants vie for your hand. But elimination means exile or worse, a clever commentary on the absurdity of royal matchmaking that brings a silent, sarcastic smile amid the strain. The absurd historical tidbit emerges in a quiet reflection suitors often gifted love tokens like jeweled hearts pierced by arrows, symbols of Cupid's wound that could be misinterpreted as treasonous plots, a romantic custom more dangerous than sending risky texts in today's digital age. Yet you receive them warily, each one a potential snare. Academic uncertainty clouds your thoughts as scholars debate if your Virgin Queen persona was a genuine choice or propaganda to mask deeper scars from your parents' disastrous marriages. But you press on, the sensory overload of perfumed gloves and rustling silks heightening the struggle, your trembling fingers folding away another letter, the paper's crisp snap echoing like a door closing on possibility. You confront the emotional depth in solitary nights, the bed's canopy looming like a judgmental veil, where dreams of Dudley's touch dissolve into nightmares of scaffolds. A lightly dramatized shock that leaves you waking with a gasp, the injustice of denied love festering like an untreated wound. Light sarcasm returns as you quip to your ladies-in-waiting that celibacy is overrated, like swearing off coffee in a world of endless meetings, a moment of clever levity that masks the profound ache. The wet wool motif mutates into the dampness of tear-streaked cheeks after reading a smuggled poem from an admirer, the fabric of your handkerchief absorbing sorrow amid the factual backdrop of parliamentary pressures to marry and produce heirs, a surprising twist where even your counsellors, once allies, now urge unions that would dilute your power, viewing your virginity as a liability rather than armour. You navigate this by penning anonymous verses yourself, channeling vulnerability into art that historians later praise as the seeds of Elizabethan literature, a poetic outlet where words become weapons against the chains. The shocking element surfaces in rumours of Dudley's wife's mysterious death, whispers that he orchestrated it for you. A sad twist lightly veiled in court gossip that forces you to distance yourself, the injustice amplifying as love turns toxic under scrutiny. You zoom out again, the stars above the palace twinkling like indifferent jewels in a crown you wear alone, and in that celestial poetry, empathy floods for the countless women bound by similar chains, their stories lost to history's selective gaze. A final modern aside, it's like ghosting your soulmate on LinkedIn because the job demands it, ironic in a world where vulnerability is weakness. Yet you endure, the ache sharpening your resolve. The torchlight dims as midnight approaches, its mutated glow fading on the letter's wax seal, a strange visual of melted hopes, and you tuck it away, the psychological chill deepening with the mood shift. How long can you deny the heart's demands before the chains snap, pulling you into a vulnerability that could shatter your throne? You confront the icy dread of an assassin's blade lurking in the folds of a courtier's cloak, sweat beading on your brow like dew on a poisoned chalice as you navigate the shadowed halls of Greenwich Palace, where every flickering candle seems to whisper of plots hatched in foreign courts. Did you know that during your reign, over 20 documented assassination attempts targeted you, from gunpowder-laden barrels to tainted gloves, with historians debating whether the Ridolfi plot of 1571 was masterminded by the Pope himself or merely a Spanish puppet show to dethrone a Protestant queen? The air chills your skin despite the heavy tapestries meant to ward off drafts, their woolen threads damp from the Thames mist seeping through cracks, mutating the wet wool motif from your earlier garden encounters into a clammy veil that clings to your gown like the grasp of unseen enemies. The fabric's weight amplifying the sensory struggle as you move, each rustle a potential betrayal echoing in the vast corridors. Your brow furrows under the pressure, the salty trickle of sweat mixing with the faint metallic tang of fear on your tongue, a mutated echo of the iron on teeth from quills and seals that once bound your letters, now symbolizing the eroding trust that crumbles like forgotten oaths, sworn by allies who vanish when shadows lengthen. A physical event erupts during a state banquet as you lift a goblet of spiced wine, its rim cold against your lips, only to set it down untouched when a servant's nervous glance catches your eye. The liquid's ruby glow hiding potential hemlock slipped in by agents of Mary Queen of Scots. Your cousin whose Catholic claims to your throne fester like an open wound across the border. You signal discreetly to your spymaster Francis Walsingham, his gaunt face illuminated by torchlight that mutates from the warm flickers of forbidden meetings into harsh interrogative beams, casting grotesque silhouettes on the walls where portraits of your father Henry stare down with judgmental eyes, a surprising twist revisiting his tyrannical legacy as the architect of religious schisms that now fuel these plots against you. The sensory struggle deepens as your pulse races, the banquet hall's clamour of lutes and laughter masking the prickling unease crawling up your arms, like invisible ants feasting on your composure, the injustice of ruling a divided realm where trust is a luxury rarer than the spices on your table. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the tension. Assassins often used Italianated methods like poisoned books, their pages laced with arsenic that could kill with a mere touch, a deadly custom more insidious than clicking a phishing link in today's cyber world, yet equally invisible until it's too late. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace's spires piercing the night sky like accusatory fingers pointing to the stars, where constellations map out fates written in indifferent light, and in that lyrical vastness, you feel a deep empathy for the nameless victims of these plots, pawns sacrificed in the name of thrones they never sought. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur to a trusted lady-in-waiting that surviving court is like playing Russian roulette with every meal, worse than ordering takeout from a sketchy app and hoping it's not contaminated. A light commentary that eases the dread for a fleeting moment amid the pounding heartbeats. The factual moment weaves in naturally the Babington plot of 1586 uncovered by Walsingham's network of double agents, revealed letters smuggled in beer barrels, a clever ruse that led to Mary's execution, and intensified Spanish ire. Historians arguing if your signing of her death warrant was reluctant mercy or ruthless necessity to quash the rising threats. A shocking element lightly dramatized unfolds when a would-be killer is dragged before you, his wild eyes gleaming with fanatic zeal, confessing under torture to plans funded by Philip II of Spain, the sad injustice that even your own subject, swayed by papal bulls declaring you illegitimate, would trade loyalty for promised salvation, leaving you to ponder the fragility of a crown built on shifting sands. You counter with clever commentary to your counsel, quipping that plots are like weeds in a garden, pull one and two more sprout, a sarcastic nod to the endless vigilance required, lightening the mood while sharpening your resolve. The modern comparison arises unbidden. It's akin to dodging trolls on social media, but with real stakes where one wrong post could end in regicide. Ironic in how ancient fears mirror digital paranoia. The absurd historical tidbit emerges during a late-night vigil. Plotters sometimes employed magic mirrors, scrying devices believed to foresee royal deaths. A superstitious tool dismissed by your rational mind, yet chilling in its absurdity. Like consulting a magic 8-ball for national security advice. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if the Throckmorton plot of 1583 was exaggerated by Walsingham to justify harsher Protestant policies, or a genuine Catholic uprising backed by French gold. But you focus on the immediate, ordering increased guards whose clanking armour echoes through the halls, a constant auditory prick that heightens your unease. You endure another sensory assault in your bedchamber, the canopy's heavy folds muffling the night sounds yet amplifying every creak. Your body tense under linens that feel like shrouds, the injustice of sleepless nights where dreams twist into visions of poisoned cups and shadowed figures. The sweat now cooling into a clammy film that mirrors the eroding trust among your inner circle. A surprising twist revisits Robert Dudley, your steadfast companion from earlier denials of love, now elevated to Earl of Leicester, whispering warnings of intercepted ciphers that name you as the Devil's Daughter. His loyalty a beacon amid the storm, but tainted by rumours of his own ambitions, adding layers to the dread that even he might erode like those forgotten oaths. You respond with deep empathy for the spies who risk all for you, their lives forfeit if caught, a poetic reflection on the human cost of power, where faceless heroes bear the brunt of royal paranoia. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that being queen, is like running a startup where investors plot your ouster, a clever aside that masks the profound fear gnawing at your core. The torchlight motif mutates into the eerie glow of a single candle by your bedside, its flame dancing erratically like the plots that swirl around you, casting long shadows that resemble hooded assassins waiting in alcoves. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty bite of a hidden dagger you keep under your pillow, its hilt cold against your fingers during fitful sleep, symbolizing the constant vigilance against enemies who multiply with every thwarted scheme. You navigate a diplomatic reception, the air heavy with foreign perfumes that barely mask the underlying tension. Ambassadors from France and Spain offering toasts with smiles that don't reach their eyes, each sip a gamble where poison could lurk, the prickling sweat returning as you deflect their probes about marriage and succession, the injustice amplifying that your very survival hinges on outwitting those who see your independence as heresy. A modern aside creeps in. It's like attending a networking event where everyone wants your job, but with added cyanide in the cocktails. Ironic in how timeless the Game of Thrones remains. The shocking, sad element lightly surfaces in news of a loyal informant's execution. His screams carried on the wind from Tyburn, a dramatized horror that underscores the human toll, leaving you with a hollow ache for the souls lost to your protection. You zoom out once more, the realm's borders stretching like fragile threads under siege from papal decrees and armadas gathering across the channel, and in that expansive poetry, empathy swells for your subjects who suffer the fallout of these plots, their lives disrupted by the wars of faith you must wage. The absurd tidbit in this moment: assassins used cantarella, a mythical poison said to be undetectable, concocted from pig intestines and arsenic, a deadly brew more sophisticated than spiking a drink at a frat party, yet equally cowardly. Academic debate echoes as experts question if the Essex Rebellion later in your reign was a lover's folly or a genuine threat amplified by your aging paranoia, but you dismiss it, focusing on the immediate chill that no blanket can warm. The wet wool mutates into the sodden hem of your riding cloak after a hasty escape from a suspected ambush in the woods, the fabric slapping against your legs like accusatory hands, heightening the dread that permeates every outing. As the night deepens, the palace settles into uneasy quiet, the goblets cleared but their potential poison lingering in your mind, a strange visual of empty vessels reflecting distorted faces in their silver surfaces, and the psychological chill intensifies what new plot will dawn reveal, eroding the fragile trust that holds your world together, shifting the mood to a wary anticipation of the storms ahead. You sense the heavy fog of religious strife rolling over England like a suffocating shroud, the air thick with the acrid stench of burning martyr fires drifting from Smithfield, where heretic screams pierce the morning mist, making your lungs burn with the injustice of a realm torn apart by faith. Did you know that in the 1560s alone, over 300 Protestants and Catholics died at the stake under your rule, with historians still debating whether your push for the Elizabethan settlement was a stroke of diplomatic genius or a desperate bandage on a bleeding nation? The damp cobblestones under your boots glisten with dew as you ride toward Westminster, the wet wool of your cloak now mutated into a sodden mantle that clings to your shoulders like the weight of 1,000 dissenting voices, each demanding you choose a side, Protestant or Catholic, while the faint metallic tang of fear lingers on your tongue, a sensory echo of the iron on teeth from hidden daggers and poisoned chalices, now sharpened by the bitter taste of division that threatens to fracture your crown. Your hands grip the reins tightly, knuckles whitening as you pass chanting crowds outside churches, their prayers clashing like swords, the sensory struggle intensifying as the fog's chill seeps into your bones, prickling your skin like the accusations of papal agents who brand you a heretic queen, their excommunications echoing from Rome with the force of a curse. A physical event unfolds as you convene the Privy Council in a candlelit chamber, the smoky haze from sputtering tapers curling around you like ghostly fingers, the torchlight motif mutating into a dim, oppressive glow that barely illuminates the grim faces of advisors like William Cecil, who urge you to execute Catholic priests to quell rebellion, a shocking injustice that twists your gut, knowing each death fuels the flames of dissent you're trying to smother. You recall the surprising twist of your sister Mary's reign, revisited here as her bloody purges of Protestants earned her the moniker Bloody Mary, a legacy you must now counter with tolerance or risk civil war. The sad element of her memory a sister once close, now a ghost of fanaticism stinging like salt in an open wound. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the tension, priests smuggled into England hid in priest holes, tiny compartments carved into manor walls, so cramped they'd make a modern cubicle feel like a penthouse, yet more perilous than dodging workplace gossip, as discovery meant torture and death. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the fog blanketing London like a veil over a mourner's face, the Thames flowing silently beneath, carrying ashes of the burned downstream, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the common folk caught in this religious crossfire, their lives torn by decrees from a throne that feels increasingly unsteady. Sarcasm creeps in as you mutter to Cecil that governing faith is like moderating a Twitter thread where everyone's shouting heresy. Worse than trying to calm a flame war with logic. A light commentary that masks the dread knotting your stomach as reports of Catholic uprisings in the north reach your ears. The factual thread weaves in naturally the Northern Rebellion of 1569 led by Catholic nobles, like the Earl of Northumberland, aimed to depose you for Mary Queen of Scots. A plot crushed with brutal executions that left 700 rebels dead. Though historians argue if your harsh response strengthened or weakened your grip on a divided realm, the sensory struggle deepens as you visit a cathedral under guard, the incense-heavy air choking your throat, the cold stone underfoot echoing the damp stone of your past imprisonments. Now a reminder of the injustice of punishing belief, your heart pounding as you kneel in prayer, not for victory but for peace that seems as elusive as a shadow in the fog. A physical act unfolds when you sign a decree banning Catholic masses, your quill scratching like a blade on flesh, the ink's metallic scent reviving the iron motif as it stains your fingers, each stroke a reluctant step toward bloodshed that could save or doom your crown. The shocking element, lightly dramatized, emerges in whispers of a priest's execution, his body broken on the rack before the pyre, a sad horror that leaves you staring into the fire's embers, wondering if you're becoming the tyrant you swore to oppose. The injustice of sacrificing lives for stability, a bitter pill you swallow alone, you counter with clever commentary to your ladies-in-waiting, quipping that ruling a divided kingdom is like refereeing a cage match where both sides claim divine referee status. A sarcastic nod that lightens the mood but can't erase the weight of your choices. A modern comparison surfaces, it's like trying to unite a polarized Reddit thread, where every upvote for peace invites downvotes of hate. Ironic in how faith fuels conflict across centuries. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a moment of reflection. Catholics used holy relics like saints' bones sewn into clothing for protection. A superstitious charm as futile as wearing a lucky sock to a job interview, yet carrying the same desperate hope against a merciless world. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate whether your Elizabethan settlement, blending Protestant doctrine with Catholic aesthetics, was a pragmatic triumph or a half measure that inflamed both sides. But you push forward, the sensory overload of chanting crowds and smoky air heightening your resolve to forge unity. You endure another physical strain during a procession through London, the fog soaking your velvet cape, its damp weight mirroring the burden of a nation split by belief. The prickling unease returning as hidden Catholics in the crowd bow with false smiles, their eyes gleaming with defiance that could spark rebellion. A surprising twist revisits Mary Queen of Scots, her distant plotting now fueling local unrest, her letters intercepted by Walsingham, revealing plans to rally Catholic nobles, a sad injustice that your cousin's ambition threatens the fragile peace you've bled to maintain, forcing you to tighten your grip on a realm slipping like mist through your fingers. You respond with deep empathy for the priests hiding in shadows, their lives forfeit for faith, a poetic reflection on the human cost of power, where even the devout become pawns in a game of thrones. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that you'd rather negotiate with a room full of cats than appease both Puritans and Papists. A clever aside that eases the tension for a moment. The torchlight motif mutates into the fiery glow of a martyr's pyre seen from your window, its flames casting grotesque shadows that dance like spectres of your own guilt, a strange visual that lingers as you retire to your chambers. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty ash taste in your mouth from the distant fires, symbolizing the burned bridges of a nation you long to heal but fear you're breaking. You navigate a tense audience with a Puritan preacher, his zealous words stinging like accusations. the injustice amplifying as you balance appeasing his demands with placating Catholic lords, each side viewing compromise as betrayal. A modern aside creeps in. It's like hosting a family reunion where half the guests hate the other half's politics, but with stakes higher than a Thanksgiving spat, ironic in its timeless futility. The shocking, sad element surfaces in a report of a village razed for hiding priests. Families displaced in your name, a lightly dramatized horror that leaves your hands trembling as you sign another decree. The quills scratch, echoing like a death knell. You zoom out once more, the realm's churches standing like silent sentinels amid the fog, their bells tolling for unity that never comes, and empathy swells for the souls lost to flames you didn't light but can't extinguish. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some fanatics used holy water laced with herbs to ward off royal spies, a futile potion more absurd than chasing wellness trends on TikTok, yet steeped in the same desperate faith. As night falls, the fog thickens outside, muffling the cries from distant pyres, a strange visual of smoke curling like unanswered prayers, and the psychological chill deepens how many must burn before the flames of strife die out, shifting the mood to a wary dread of the wars your reign must now face. You hear the distant boom of cannons echoing across the channel, their metallic tang settling on your tongue like the gritty residue of war preparations. As you stand in Tilbury's muddy fields, the damp air heavy with the scent of wet wool from soldiers' cloaks, now mutated into the sodden weight of your own ceremonial armour, its cold plates pressing against your chest like a reminder of the personal toll you pay to defend a realm teetering on the edge of invasion. Did you know that in 1588 the Spanish Armada's 130 ships carried enough gunpowder to level London? Yet historians still debate whether your speech at Tilbury was a defiant masterstroke or a desperate plea to rally a fractured nation. The wind whips through the camp, stinging your face with salt and sea spray, a sensory struggle that mirrors the prickling unease crawling beneath your skin as you survey the ragtag army before you, their mismatched pikes gleaming dully under a grey sky, each man a fragile bulwark against the looming Catholic threat from Spain. Your muscles ache from hours of standing in borrowed armour, the steel's unyielding grip a physical manifestation of the injustice that you, a woman, must don such garb to prove your strength in a world that doubts a queen's resolve, the damp ground sucking at your boots like the doubts that tug at your heart. A physical event unfolds as you mount a white horse to address your troops, the saddle creaking under your weight, the beast's breath steaming in the chilly air, and you raise your voice above the wind, proclaiming, "I have the heart and stomach of a king," words that echo across the muddy field, a factual moment historians cite as the pinnacle of your reign, though they argue if it was genuine courage or theatrical bravado to mask your fear of defeat. The torchlight motif mutates into the smoky glow of campfires dotting the landscape, their flickering flames casting ghostly shadows on soldiers' faces, revisiting the burning pyres of religious strife, but now symbolizing the fragile hope of unity against a foreign foe, a surprising twist that these men, once divided by faith, now stand shoulder to shoulder under your banner. An absurd tidbit flickers through your mind amid the tension soldiers use trenchers, wooden plates carved from stale bread, to eat their meagre rations, a grim custom more sustainable than modern takeout containers but far less appetizing, especially when soaked in the filth of camp mud. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the vast Essex marshes stretching like a canvas of sacrifice, where the Thames meets the sea in a swirl of defiance and despair, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for these men, farmers and smiths turned warriors, their lives tethered to your words, their fates bound to a queen who must be both lion and lamb. Sarcasm slips in as you mutter to your captain that rallying an army is like herding cats on a Zoom call with no mute button, worse than convincing a TikTok algorithm to favour your content. A light commentary that eases the strain of the moment but can't dull the pounding in your chest as ships' masts appear on the horizon. The sensory struggle intensifies as you grip the reins, the leather biting into your palms, the metallic tang now mixed with the salty sweat dripping into your eyes, a mutated echo of the iron on teeth from past betrayals, now sharpened by the stakes of war where one misstep could drown England in blood. A shocking element, lightly dramatized, emerges as a scout reports the Armada's approach, their galleons like floating fortresses, A sad injustice that your reign's prosperity now hinges on winds and waves, not just your will, leaving you to pray for storms that might save or doom your people. The factual thread weaves in the Armada's defeat in 1588, aided by fierce gales and English fireships, marked a turning point, though scholars debate if it was divine providence or your strategic foresight that tipped the scales, with over 15,000 Spanish sailors lost to sea and slaughter. You counter with clever commentary to your generals, quipping that facing the Armada is like playing chess with a board half submerged, a sarcastic nod to the chaos that only a queen can navigate, lightening the mood amid the roar of preparations. A modern comparison surfaces, it's like live streaming a crisis on X with no way to pin a calming comment. Ironic in how public perception sways faster than cannonballs, yet you stand firm, your voice a beacon in the fog. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment soldiers believed swallowing a musket ball brought luck in battle, a superstition as futile as liking a post for good karma, yet steeped in the same desperate hope against overwhelming odds. Academic uncertainty lingers as experts argue if your Tilbury speech galvanized the nation or merely postponed inevitable Catholic plots. But you focus on the immediate, the damp armor chafing your shoulders as you ride among the troops, their cheers a fragile shield against the injustice of a world that questions your right to lead. The sensory overload deepens as the camp's smoke stings your throat, the muddy fields sucking at every step, prickling your nerves with the weight of lives depending on your next move, a physical strain that mirrors the emotional toll of defending a crown that feels heavier than the steel encasing you. A surprising twist revisits Francis Walsingham, your spy master from earlier plots, now feeding you reports of Spanish troop movements, his loyalty unwavering but his health fading, a sad element that his tireless service to you may cost his life, a lightly dramatized horror that adds to the personal toll you bear. You respond with deep empathy for the sailors facing death at sea, their families waiting in vain for their return, a poetic reflection on the human cost of war where victory comes at the price of blood. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that leading an army is like managing a group chat where everyone's shouting for glory, a clever aside that masks the dread of what dawn will bring. The wet wool motif mutates into the sodden canvas of tents flapping in the wind, their damp folds slapping like the accusations you've faced since childhood, now a reminder of the injustice that even victory may not silence your doubters. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty taste of gunpowder dust in the air, a sensory echo of the battles you've fought within and without, symbolizing the relentless fight to hold your throne. You navigate a late-night council by firelight, the generals' voices hoarse with strategy, their plans as fragile as the flames before you, the prickling unease returning as you weigh the cost of sending men to die for a queen they barely know. A modern aside creeps in. It's like crowdfunding a war on Kickstarter with no guarantee of success. Ironic in how faith in you is both currency and curse. The shocking sad element surfaces in a letter from a captain's wife, begging for her husband's safe return, a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart, the injustice of war's toll on the innocent a burden you carry alone. You zoom out once more, the coastline a jagged line against a stormy sky, where waves crash like the clashing faiths you've tried to quell, and empathy swells for the soldiers who'll face the Armada's wrath, their lives a fragile thread in history's tapestry. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some sailors wore charms made from dried seaweed, believing it appeased Neptune, a ritual as absurd as wearing a fitness tracker to outrun fate, yet rooted in the same primal fear. As night falls, the campfires dim, their smoky glow fading into a strange visual of embers floating like lost souls, and the psychological chill deepens. Will victory at Tilbury cement your legacy? Or will the personal toll of war unravel the queen you fought to become? Shifting the mood to a tense anticipation of the battles ahead, you wince at the prickling unease of espionage networks weaving through the candlelit corridors of Richmond Palace, your eyes straining in the dim, stuttering glow of a single taper, its wax dripping like secrets onto the oak table, as you pore over coded dispatches that taste of treachery sharper than the metallic tang lingering on your tongue. Did you know that in the 1580s, your spy master Francis Walsingham employed over 50 agents across Europe, intercepting letters that could topple your throne, with historians debating whether his paranoia saved England or fueled a police state? The air is heavy with the musty scent of old parchment and damp velvet curtains. Their sodden weight a mutated echo of the wet wool that once clung to you at Tilbury, now transformed into a stifling veil that mirrors the layers of deceit wrapping around your court, the fabric's clammy touch prickling your skin like the unseen eyes of traitors lurking in every shadow. Your fingers tremble as you trace the cryptic symbols on a letter, the ink's faint iron smell reviving the sensory motif of quills and goblets, now a gritty reminder of the eroding trust that crumbles with each intercepted plot. Your heart pounding as you decipher a message implicating Mary Queen of Scots in yet another scheme to usurp your crown. A physical event unfolds as you summon Walsingham to your privy chamber, the creak of his boots on the floorboards echoing like a warning drum, his gaunt face etched with exhaustion under the torchlight, its mutated glow now harsh and interrogative, casting jagged shadows that twist like the conspiracies you both unravel. A surprising twist revisiting his role from earlier assassination plots, but now revealing the toll his relentless vigilance takes. His cough a sad element hinting at a body breaking under the weight of your defense. The sensory struggle deepens as your eyes burn from hours of reading by flickering light, the smoke curling into your lungs like the whispers of betrayal that choke your realm. The injustice of ruling a kingdom where every ally could be a spy, stinging sharper than the cold air seeping through the window panes. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the tension. Spies used invisible ink made from lemon juice, revealed only by candle heat. A clandestine trick more delicate than sending encrypted DMs on a burner account, yet far deadlier when a single misstep could mean the scaffold. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace's towers looming like silent sentinels over a sleeping London, where the Thames carries coded messages downstream to foreign courts, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the faceless agents risking torture for your safety, their lives mere whispers in history's vast ledger. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur to Walsingham that running a spy network is like moderating an X thread where every user is a double agent. Worse than untangling a Reddit conspiracy theory gone viral, a light commentary that eases the strain but can't dull the prickling dread of what lies hidden in the shadows. The factual thread weaves in naturally the Babington plot of 1586, uncovered by Walsingham's ciphers hidden in beer barrels, led to Mary's trial. With scholars arguing if your reluctant signature on her death warrant was a moral failing or a necessary strike to secure England, given her role in at least 3 major plots against you. A shocking element, lightly dramatized, emerges as you confront a captured courier, his trembling hands clutching a rosary as he confesses to smuggling letters for Catholic nobles. A sad injustice that even the devout betray you for promises of eternal reward, leaving you to question if loyalty exists beyond the grave. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that espionage is like playing poker with a deck full of jokers, a sarcastic nod to the endless deceit that sharpens your resolve amid the pounding pulse of paranoia. A modern comparison arises, it's like dodging hackers in a digital age, but with quills and daggers instead of keyboards. Ironic in how treachery transcends centuries, yet you endure, your eyes scanning every face for signs of duplicity. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment. Spies sometimes hid messages in hollowed-out eggs, a fragile method as risky as trusting a cloud server with no backup, yet steeped in the same desperate cunning. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if Walsingham's network created a culture of fear that stifled dissent or was the only shield against Catholic invasions. But you focus on the immediate as ordering tighter surveillance as the candle's wax pools like congealing blood, the sensory overload heightening your unease with every scratch of quill on paper. You endure another physical strain during a late-night council, your back aching from leaning over maps of Europe, the damp velvet of your gown clinging like a second skin, the injustice amplifying as you realize even your most trusted advisors, like Cecil, may withhold truths to protect their own agendas, the prickling unease returning as you weigh each word for hidden motives. A surprising twist revisits Robert Dudley, now Earl of Leicester, whose whispered warnings about French spies carry a sad undertone. His loyalty unwavering, but his health faltering. A lightly dramatized horror that his love for you may outlast his life, adding to the personal toll of your reign. You respond with deep empathy for the informants who vanish into foreign dungeons, their names erased from history, a poetic reflection on the human cost of power, where shadows bear the heaviest burdens. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that spying is like running a startup with no HR, where everyone's a freelancer with their own agenda, a clever aside that masks the profound fear gnawing at your core. The wet wool motif mutates into the damp parchment under your fingers, its texture slick with wax and secrets, a sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. Now a reminder of the injustice that knowledge comes at the cost of trust. The iron-on teeth evolves into the bitter taste of bile as you read of another plot, this one implicating a trusted lady-in-waiting. Her betrayal a shocking sting that pierces deeper than any dagger, the sad element that even your inner circle erodes under ambition's weight. You navigate a tense audience with a Dutch envoy, his promises of alliance against Spain tinged with ulterior motives, the air heavy with his musky cologne that barely masks the underlying tension, your nerves prickling as you deflect his probes about your succession, the injustice that your crown depends on, outwitting those who see you as a temporary queen. A modern aside creeps in. It's like negotiating a merger, where everyone's secretly shorting your stock, ironic in how power games remain timeless. Yet you press on, your eyes burning with fatigue but sharp with resolve. The shocking, sad element surfaces in a report of an agent's torture, his screams described in a coded dispatch, a lightly dramatized horror that leaves your hands trembling as you burn the letter. The flames a strange visual echoing the torchlight's mutated glow. You zoom out once more, the city's rooftops glinting under a moon that sees all but reveals nothing, and empathy swells for the spies who die in silence. Their sacrifices the unseen scaffolding of your reign. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some spies use dead drops in hollow tree trunks, a method as quaint as leaving a USB stick in a park bench, yet equally perilous in its fragility. As night deepens, the candle gutters, its dimming flame casting a strange visual of wax pooling like tears, and the psychological chill intensifies how many secrets must you unearth before the layers of deceit bury you, shifting the mood to a wary anticipation of the diplomatic dances that await. You feel the oppressive heat of diplomatic dances in the Grand Hall of Whitehall, where the air shimmers with the cloying scent of foreign perfumes, their sweetness masking false smiles that make your skin crawl like spiders weaving webs of flattery, as you navigate a treacherous waltz of words with suitors whose promises of alliance hide agendas sharper than the daggers of past plots. Did you know that by the 1570s, you rejected over a dozen royal marriage proposals, from Habsburgs to Valois, with historians debating whether your refusal was a feminist stand or a fear of losing sovereignty to a king? The heavy silk of your gown, damp with sweat from the stifling crowd, clings to your body like the mutated wet wool of your earlier battles, now a suffocating tapestry of protocol that itches with the injustice of a world demanding you wed to secure peace. Each rustle of fabric a reminder of the solitude you embrace to preserve your crown. Your eyes strain under the chandelier's torchlight, its mutated glow now a dazzling blaze that throws deceptive halos around ambassadors' faces, their honeyed words dripping with ulterior motives, reviving the metallic tang of fear on your tongue, a sensory echo of the iron-on teeth from coded letters and poisoned chalices, now sharpened by the bitter taste of diplomatic deceit. A physical event unfolds as you receive the French Duke of Anjou, his bow low but his eyes sharp, offering a treaty sealed by marriage, his velvet glove brushing yours in a gesture that sends a prickling chill up your arm, the sensory struggle intensifying as you deflect his charm with a smile that hides your dread. Knowing one misstep could chain England to a Catholic throne, the factual thread weaves in the Anjou courtship of 1579 sparked public outcry, with Puritan pamphlets calling it a papist trap. Though scholars argue if your flirtations were genuine or a diplomatic ruse to delay French aggression, a surprising twist revisiting the marriage pressures from earlier years, but now heightened by the stakes of a volatile Europe. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the tension suitors sent miniature portraits painted on ivory, often laced with lead-based pigments. A toxic gift more dangerous than a shady NFT scam, yet offered as proof of devotion in a court where love was a political pawn. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the hall's gilded walls reflecting a world where empires clash like waves against England's shores, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the women of your court, their own marriages bartered for alliances, their dreams crushed under the same chains that bind you. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur to a lady in waiting that diplomacy is like speed dating, with stakes higher than a bad breakup, worse than swiping left on a warlord's Tinder profile, a light commentary that eases the strain but can't dull the pounding in your chest as Spanish envoys hint at armadas gathering across the channel. The sensory struggle deepens as your feet ache in jeweled slippers, the polished floor slick with wax, each step a gamble in this dance where a wrong move could spark invasion. The injustice stinging that your independence as queen is a prize others seek to claim. A shocking element, lightly dramatized, emerges when a Dutch ambassador whispers of a foiled plot to kidnap you during a progress, his words chilling your blood like frost. A sad injustice that even your public tours, meant to win hearts, invite treachery from those you seek to unite. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that diplomacy is like playing Uno with a deck full of wild cards, a sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the suffocating heat of false promises. A modern comparison arises. It's like negotiating a peace deal on a Zoom call where everyone's camera hides their true intentions. Ironic in how power plays remain timeless. Yet you endure. Your smile a mask as you parry offers with wit. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment. Diplomats wore scented gloves infused with ambergris to signal wealth. A custom as ostentatious as flexing a Rolex on Instagram, yet riskier in a court where scents could mask poison. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your refusal to marry Anjou was driven by love for Robert Dudley or a strategic rejection of foreign control, but you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as you sense eyes watching from behind tapestries, their whispers as dangerous as the blades they conceal. You endure another physical strain during a late banquet, the heavy goblets clinking with toasts that ring hollow, your throat tight with the effort to maintain composure, the damp silk now a second skin that mirrors the injustice of a queen forced to play lover to nations she'd rather defy. A surprising twist revisits Dudley, now a shadow in the crowd, his gaze heavy with unspoken longing as he watches you entertain Anjou. A sad element that his loyalty endures despite your rejections, a lightly dramatized horror that love remains a wound you cannot heal. You respond with deep empathy for the maids who fan you, their own lives bartered in lesser courts, a poetic reflection on the shared solitude of women bound by duty's chains. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that marriage proposals are like pop-up ads, intrusive and impossible to close without consequences, a clever aside that masks the profound ache of denying your heart. The wet wool motif mutates into the damp lace of your ruff, its starched edges chafing your neck like the expectations of a nation, a sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the bitter taste of wine you dare not drink, fearing poison from a suitor's gift, symbolizing the relentless vigilance against those who see your solitude as weakness. You navigate a private audience with a Swedish prince, his promises of Baltic trade laced with demands for your hand, the air thick with his musk that barely masks the underlying tension, your nerves prickling as you deflect with promises of friendship, the injustice amplifying that your crown depends on outwitting those who view you as a prize. A modern aside creeps in. It's like rejecting a LinkedIn connection request from someone who wants your entire company. Ironic in how diplomacy mirrors digital posturing, yet you press on, your eyes burning with fatigue but sharp with resolve. The shocking sad element surfaces in a letter from a Protestant ally, warning of Catholic plots tied to your refusal of Anjou, a lightly dramatized horror that your choice for independence fuels wars you cannot stop. Leaving your hands trembling as you fold the parchment, you zoom out once more, the hall's chandeliers glittering like stars in a sky indifferent to your struggles, and empathy swells for the countless women whose lives are bartered in similar halls, their stories lost to history's selective gaze. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some suitors sent lovelocks of hair woven into gold, a gesture as creepy as deeming a stranger with a lock of your own hair, yet steeped in the same desperate bid for favour. As night falls, the chandelier's glow dims, casting a strange visual of shadows dancing like rejected suitors, and the psychological chill deepens. How long can you dance this diplomatic waltz before solitude becomes your only partner, shifting the mood to a wary dread of the ambitions that will test your reign? You choke on the dusty remnants of failed explorations, the air thick with the stale scent of old maps and sea salt-crusted logs in a cramped chamber at Greenwich. where the bitter taste of lost ships lingers on your tongue like ash, a mutated echo of the iron on teeth from quills and poisons, now sharpened by the injustice of ambition's cruel price on loyal souls who sail under your banner. Did you know that in the 1570s, your explorers like Martin Frobisher lost over 40 men to ice and scurvy searching for a northwest passage? With historians debating whether your push for empire was visionary or a reckless gamble with lives. The damp parchment under your fingers crumbles like the dreams of distant shores, its texture a mutated form of the wet wool from diplomatic halls, now a brittle reminder of voyages that vanished into fog and frost, the sensory struggle intensifying as your eyes burn from squinting at faded charts, their lines tracing routes to nowhere, prickling your skin with the unease of a queen whose reach exceeds her grasp. Your heart pounds as you pace the room, the floorboards groaning under your steps, each creak a whisper of the men who won't return, their fate sealed by your orders to seek glory beyond the horizon. A physical event unfolds as you receive a weathered captain's log from Francis Drake, his scrawl detailing storms that splintered masts and crews lost to disease, the parchment's salty tang stinging your nostrils. A shocking sadness that these men, driven by your dreams of empire, paid with their lives, their bones now resting in uncharted waters. The torchlight motif mutates into the dim glow of a single lantern, its flickering beam casting ghostly shapes on the walls, revisiting the fiery pyres of religious strife, but now symbolizing the fleeting hope of discovery. A surprising twist that Drake, your golden knight from earlier triumphs, now bears the weight of failure, his latest voyage yielding fool's gold instead of riches. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the gloom. Explorers carried ship's biscuits laced with weevils, a gritty staple more revolting than eating expired granola bars on a road trip, yet sustaining men through seas as merciless as your court's intrigues. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the world beyond your window stretching to oceans vast and unforgiving, where waves swallow ambition like the Thames devours secrets, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the sailors' families, waiting in vain for sons and fathers lost to your quest for glory. Sarcasm slips in as you mutter that funding voyages is like backing a startup with no business plan, worse than crowdfunding a flop on Kickstarter, a light commentary that masks the ache of knowing each lost ship erodes your realm's strength. The factual thread weaves in Frobisher's 1576-78 expeditions to the Arctic, seeking a passage to Asia, returned with tons of gold ore later proven worthless, a costly blunder that fueled Catholic propaganda against you, though scholars argue if it taught you to temper ambition with caution. The sensory struggle deepens as your throat tightens from the dusty air, the chart's inked lines blurring like tears, the injustice stinging that your vision for England's greatness demands sacrifices you can't repay. Your fingers trembling as you trace a route that led to frozen graves. A physical act unfolds when you meet a weathered sailor, his frostbitten hands shaking as he recounts surviving a shipwreck, his voice hoarse with tales of icebergs and starvation, a lightly dramatized horror that leaves you gripping the table, the wood's grain biting into your palms like the guilt of sending men to die. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that exploration is like betting on a horse that drowns mid-race, a sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the pounding grief. A modern comparison arises, it's like launching a SpaceX rocket with no GPS, ironic in how ambition blinds even the sharpest minds, yet you endure, your eyes fixed on maps that promise empire but deliver loss. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment sailors drank grog, a rum water mix to stave off scurvy, a foul brew more medicinal than a kale smoothie gone wrong, yet vital in a world where survival hung on frail hopes. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your backing of Drake's circumnavigation in 1570 was a pirate's plunder or a strategic blow to Spain. But you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as you read of another fleet lost to storms, the injustice that nature itself conspires against your dreams. You endure another physical strain during a late council, your back aching from hours bent over maps, the damp parchment sticking to your fingers like the weight of failure, the sensory overload heightening as the lantern smoke stings your eyes, mirroring the toll of ambition on your soul. A surprising twist revisits Francis Walsingham, his spies now warning of Spanish glee at your failed voyages, a sad element that their mockery fuels plots against you. a lightly dramatized horror that your empire's reach stretches only as far as your luck. You respond with deep empathy for the sailors who faced ice and waves, their courage a silent pillar of your reign, a poetic reflection on the human cost of dreams too vast for mortal hands. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that exploration is like scrolling X for treasure maps, only to find memes and mirages, a clever aside that masks the profound ache of loss. The wet wool motif mutates into the damp hemp of ropes coiled on the floor, their briny scent a reminder of ships that never returned, echoing the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty taste of salt from a sailor's log, its pages warped by seawater, symbolizing the relentless cost of ambition. You navigate a tense meeting with merchants, their demands for repaid loans stinging like accusations, the injustice amplifying that your crown's glory depends on gold you cannot conjure, your nerves prickling as you promise future riches to appease them. A modern aside creeps in, it's like pitching to venture capitalists who want profits yesterday. Ironic in how wealth drives power across eras, yet you press on, your resolve steeling against the tide of doubt. The shocking sad element surfaces in a widow's petition. Her husband lost to a voyage you funded. Her words a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart. The injustice of her grief, a burden you carry alone. You zoom out once more, the horizon, a line of promise and peril, where stars guide ships to glory or graves, and empathy swells for the explorers who dared the unknown, their names fading like ripples in the sea. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some crews used sea charms made from shark teeth, believing they warded off storms, a ritual as futile as checking a weather app in a hurricane, yet rooted in the same desperate faith. As night falls, the lantern gutters, its dimming flame casting a strange visual of maps curling like burning dreams, and the psychological chill deepens how many more must perish before your empire rises, shifting the mood to a wary dread of the legacy you're forging. You tremble under the growing frailty of age, your joints creaking like the ancient floorboards of Richmond Palace, as the musty scent of damp tapestries fills your lungs, a mutated echo of the wet wool that once clung to you in battle camps and diplomatic halls, now a stifling shroud that mirrors the weight of a reign stretching into its fourth decade. Did you know that by 1590, at 57, you outlived 90% of your Tudor kin? With historians debating whether your longevity was a triumph of will or a curse of solitude that left you haunted by unfulfilled legacies, the air is thick with the acrid smoke of dwindling fires, their embers barely warming the chill that seeps into your bones, prickling your skin like the injustice of time that erodes your body while your mind clings to the iron-willed queen you've crafted. The metallic tang on your tongue now a bitter reminder of the iron-on teeth from quills, daggers, and lost ships, mutated into the gritty ache of teeth blackened by years of sugary banquets and toxic cosmetics. Your hands, once steady with a scepter, now quiver as you adjust the heavy red wig, its fibers scratching your scalp like a crown of thorns, the sensory struggle intensifying as you move through candlelit corridors, each step a laboured protest against the relentless duties that chain you to the throne. A physical event unfolds as you preside over a council meeting, your voice thinner than the parchment you clutch, its texture worn like your resolve, as advisors like Robert Cecil press for decisions on trade and succession, their eyes scanning your lined face for weakness. A shocking sadness that even your most loyal servants now see you as a relic. The injustice of age stripping away the aura of invincibility you've worn like armour. The torchlight motif mutates into the faint glow of a single taper by your side, its wavering flame casting long shadows that twist like spectres of your past, revisiting the fiery pyres and exploratory lanterns, but now symbolising the dimming light of your reign. A surprising twist that Cecil, once a junior ally to Walsingham, now holds the reins of power, his ambition a sad element that underscores your growing isolation. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the strained courtiers use sweet bags filled with lavender to mask the stench of unwashed bodies. A futile custom more desperate than spraying air freshener in a gym locker room, yet vital in a court where appearances outrank reality. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace's spires fading into a twilight sky where stars mock your mortal limits, and in that lyrical expanse, You feel deep empathy for the women of your court, their youth fading under your shadow, their lives bound by the same duties that cage you. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur to a lady-in-waiting that aging as queen is like running a marathon with no finish line. Worse than scrolling through X posts about anti-aging hacks. A light commentary that masks the ache of watching your strength wane. The factual thread weaves in by the 1590s. Your court faced economic strain from wars and failed harvests, with scholars arguing if your refusal to name a successor was strategic or a denial of mortality, a choice that left England teetering on uncertainty. The sensory struggle deepens as your knees protest kneeling at chapel, the cold stone floor echoing the damp stone of your youth, now a reminder of the injustice that even prayer offers no reprieve from time's toll. Your breath shallow as you face the mirror, its warped glass reflecting a face painted with Venetian ceruse. The lead-based cosmetic poisoning you slowly, a lightly dramatized horror that your pursuit of eternal youth accelerates your decline. A physical act unfolds when you stumble during a rare public progress, your frail hand gripping a guard's arm. The crowd's gasps a shocking sting that your weakness is now spectacle. The injustice that a queen who defeated armadas is reduced to a faltering figure under their pitying gaze. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that age is like a tax collector who takes more each year, a sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the trembling limbs. A modern comparison arises, it's like posting a filtered selfie to hide wrinkles, only to have the algorithm expose your flaws, ironic in how image defines power across eras, yet you endure, your eyes still sharp with defiance. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment. Physicians prescribed unicorn horn powder, actually ground narwhal tusk, to restore vigor, a remedy as fanciful as chasing biohacks on TikTok, yet steeped in the same desperate hope against decay. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your prolonged virginity preserved your power or deepened your loneliness, but you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as courtiers whisper of James of Scotland as your heir. Their words are betrayal sharper than any plot. You endure another physical strain during a sleepless night, your joints aching as you pace, the damp tapestries brushing your gown like accusatory hands, the sensory overload heightening as the fire's smoke stings your eyes, mirroring the toll of a reign that demands you remain Gloriana despite your body's protests. A surprising twist revisits Robert Dudley, now long dead, his absence a sad element that haunts your dreams, a lightly dramatized horror that the man who loved you most left you to face age alone, his memory a wound that time cannot heal. You respond with deep empathy for the aging maids who serve you, their own years sacrificed to your court, a poetic reflection on the shared frailty of women bound by duty's chains. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that growing old is like running a kingdom on dial-up internet, slow and unreliable, a clever aside that masks the profound ache of mortality. The wet wool motif mutates into the damp linen of your nightgown, clinging to your thinning frame like the expectations you can no longer meet. A sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the chalky taste of medicinal powders you refuse, their bitterness symbolizing the relentless march of time. You navigate a tense audience with young nobles, their vibrant energy a stark contrast to your fading vigor. The injustice amplifying that your crown depends on outwitting those who see you as a fading star. Your nerves prickling as you deflect their probing questions about succession. A modern aside creeps in, it's like mentoring Gen Z interns who think you're out of touch. Ironic in how youth challenges power across centuries, yet you press on, your resolve steeling against the frailty. The shocking sad element surfaces in a letter from a dying advisor, begging you to name a successor, a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart, the injustice of mortality, a burden you carry alone. You zoom out once more, the palace's shadows lengthening like the years you've ruled, and empathy swells for the subjects who fear the void your death will leave, their lives tied to a queen who cannot stop time. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some believed bathing in mare's milk could restore youth, a ritual as absurd as chasing viral skincare trends, yet rooted in the same futile hope. As night deepens, the taper's flame gutters, casting a strange visual of shadows pooling like spilled ink, and the psychological chill intensifies. How long can you defy age before the unfulfilled legacies bury you? Shifting the mood to a weary dread of the losses yet to come, You taste the sour regret of personal losses, tears stinging your eyes like acid rain in the dim solitude of your privy chamber at Whitehall, where the air hangs heavy with the musty scent of old velvet curtains. Their damp fibres a mutated echo of the wet wool that once clung to you in camps and courts, now a suffocating veil that mirrors the grief wrapping your heart. Did you know that by 1601 you had outlived nearly all your closest companions, with historians debating whether your refusal to replace them was stoic strength or a descent into isolation that darkened your final years? The faint glow of a single candle sputters, its wax pooling like congealed sorrow, a mutated torchlight motif from the blazing chandeliers of diplomatic dances, now dimmed to reflect the fading warmth of those you loved, the metallic tang on your tongue, once sharp from iron quills and poisoned chalices, now a bitter residue of loss that stings sharper than any plot, prickling your skin with the injustice of a life where loyalty vanishes like mist. Your hands tremble as you clutch a locket, its cold silver etched with Robert Dudley's initials, the metal biting into your palm like a physical wound. The sensory struggle intensifying as you pace the creaking floorboards, each step echoing the hollow ache of a heart battered by years of sacrifice. A physical event unfolds as you pause by a portrait of your mother, Anne Boleyn, her painted eyes staring through you, a shocking sadness that her execution when you were 3 left you to navigate this brutal world without her guidance. The injustice of her death, a wound that festers in the silence, your breath catching as tears dampen the lace of your ruff, a mutated echo of the damp silk that once chafed under diplomatic scrutiny. The factual thread weaves in the Essex Rebellion of 1601 led by Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex, a once-favoured courtier whose reckless bid for power forced you to sign his death warrant, with scholars arguing if your grief was for his betrayal or the loss of a man you loved like a son. A surprising twist revisiting Dudley's earlier loyalty now mirrored in Essex's tragic fall, a sad element that his execution in the Tower echoes your mother's fate. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the gloom. Courtiers wore mourning rings with the locks of the deceased's hair, a grim keepsake more macabre than posting an in memoriam status on social media, yet steeped in the same need to cling to memory. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace's shadows stretching like a requiem for lost friends, the Thames flowing silently below, carrying their ghosts downstream, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the countless others who mourn alone, their losses buried under the weight of duty. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur that grief is like a tax no queen can evade, worse than doom-scrolling X-posts about heartbreak, a light commentary that masks the profound ache of facing solitude's embrace. The sensory struggle deepens as your eyes burn from unshed tears, the candle's smoke curling like the regrets you can't voice, the injustice stinging that even a queen cannot outrun loss. Your fingers tracing the locket's edges until they ache, a physical reminder of the toll this reign has exacted. A physical act unfolds when you collapse into a chair, the velvet cushion damp with your own tears, the creak of its frame echoing the fragility of your spirit, a lightly dramatized horror that your strength, once a beacon, now crumbles under the weight of those you've buried. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that mourning is like hosting a banquet where all the guests are ghosts. A sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the trembling sorrow. A modern comparison arises, it's like unfollowing every friend on social media only to find your feed hauntingly empty. Ironic in how isolation transcends time, yet you endure, your eyes fixed on the candle's faltering flame. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment mourners used tear catchers, glass vials to collect grief's droplets, a ritual as futile as saving voicemails from the departed, yet rooted in the same desperate need to hold loss close. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your grief for Essex deepened your paranoia or merely reflected the exhaustion of a reign too long, but you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as courtiers' whispers grow louder, their pity a betrayal sharper than any plot. You endure another physical strain during a sleepless night, your joints protesting as you clutch the locket, the damp air seeping through the curtains like the sorrow seeping into your bones, the sensory overload heightening as the candle smoke stings your throat, mirroring the toll of a heart breaking under duty's chains. A surprising twist revisits Francis Walsingham, his death years ago now a ghost in your memory, his absence a sad element that leaves you defenseless against the court's growing scrutiny, a lightly dramatized horror that even your greatest allies fade into shadows. You respond with deep empathy for the maids who wipe your tears, their own losses hidden behind their service, a poetic reflection on the shared grief of women bound by duty's weight. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that grief is like a subscription you never signed up for, charging you daily, a clever aside that masks the profound ache of solitude. The wet wool motif mutates into the damp velvet of your morning gown, its heavy folds clinging like the regrets you can't shed, a sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the sour taste of bile as you swallow back sobs, symbolizing the relentless cost of a crown that isolates you from love. You navigate a tense audience with a young advisor, his ambitious eyes a stark contrast to your fading strength, the injustice amplifying that your losses are now public spectacle, your nerves prickling as you deflect his probes about your health. A modern aside creeps in, it's like trending on X for all the wrong reasons. Ironic in how grief becomes gossip, yet you press on, your resolve steeling against the pain. The shocking, sad element surfaces in a letter from a childhood friend's daughter, mourning her mother's death, a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart. The injustice of loss a burden you share with countless others. You zoom out once more, the palace's silence a tomb for your memories, and empathy swells for the subjects who mourn their own, their lives tied to a queen who cannot escape her sorrow. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some wore blackwork embroidery depicting skulls on their sleeves, a fashion as grim as a viral death meme, yet rooted in the same need to wear grief publicly. As night deepens, the candle gutters, casting a strange visual of shadows pooling like spilled tears, and the psychological chill intensifies how many more losses must you endure before the crown's glitter fades entirely, shifting the mood to a weary dread of the frailty that awaits. You battle the creeping numbness of illness, your breath shallow in the musty air of your bedchamber at Richmond Palace, where the damp linen sheets cling to your thinning frame like a shroud, a mutated echo of the wet wool that once weighed you down in camps and courts. Now a clammy cage that mirrors the frailty strangling your once unbreakable spirit. Did you know that by 1603, at nearly 70, your use of lead-based cosmetics had poisoned your body for decades? With historians debating whether this silent toxin or sheer exhaustion from ruling alone hastened your end. The faint glow of a dying fire casts flickering shadows on the tapestried walls. The torchlight motif mutated from blazing chandeliers and battlefield lanterns into a feeble ember that barely warms the chill seeping into your bones. The metallic tang on your tongue, once sharp from iron quills and poisoned fears, now a chalky residue of medicinal powders you refuse, prickling your throat with the injustice of a body betraying the queen who defied empires. Your joints ache as you shift on the bed, the creaking frame echoing your laboured breaths, each movement a sensory struggle that amplifies the horror of mortality closing in like a noose, your skin crawling with the unease of a court watching you fade, their whispers sharper than any dagger you've dodged. A physical event unfolds as you push away a physician's trembling hand, his vial of rosewater tonic spilling onto the floor, its sweet scent clashing with the musty air. A shocking sadness that even your doctors, once trusted, now seem to hasten your decline with futile remedies. The injustice stinging that a queen who outwitted armadas cannot outrun time. The factual thread weaves in your refusal to name a successor in 1603 left England teetering, with scholars arguing if your silence was a final act of control or a fear of surrendering power. A surprising twist revisiting the succession debates from earlier years, but now intensified by your body's collapse. A sad element that your lifelong solitude leaves no heir to carry your legacy. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the haze physicians prescribe bleeding with leeches to balance your humours. A gruesome cure more barbaric than trusting a shady wellness influencer. Yet rooted in the desperate hope to defy death. You zoom out for a poetic breath. The palace's towers fading into a twilight sky where stars mock your mortal limits. And in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the maids who tend you, their own lives fading in your shadow, their silent tears mirroring yours. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur that illness is like a bad Wi-Fi signal, cutting you off from the world you've ruled. Worse than buffering during a critical Zoom call, a light commentary that masks the profound ache of your weakening grip. The sensory struggle deepens as your eyes blur from the fire's smoke, the damp linen chilling your fevered skin, the injustice amplifying that even a queen cannot command her body to obey. Your hands trembling as you clutch the bedpost, its carved roses biting into your palms like thorns of regret. A physical act unfolds when you rise briefly, staggering to a window, the cold glass pressing against your forehead, a lightly dramatized horror that your reflection shows a stranger's face, painted white with ceruse that poisons you, the shocking truth that your pursuit of eternal youth has carved your doom. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that aging's like a battery draining with no charger in sight, a sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the creeping numbness. A modern comparison arises. It's like trending on X for frailty, your every stumble a viral clip. Ironic in how a queen's weakness becomes spectacle, yet you endure, your eyes still sharp with defiance. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment. Courtiers believed rubbing a gold coin on your skin could cure ailments, a superstition as futile as chasing crypto riches, yet steeped in the same desperate faith. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your symptoms fatigue, tooth loss, confusion stemmed from lead poisoning or pneumonia, but you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as advisors like Robert Cecil hover, their eyes gleaming with plans for a future without you. You endure another physical strain as you collapse back onto the bed, the damp sheets soaking your nightgown, the sensory overload heightening as the fire smoke stings your throat, mirroring the toll of a reign that demands you remain Gloriana despite your body's protests. A surprising twist revisits Robert Dudley's memory, his locket now a cold weight in your hand. A sad element that is love, long gone, haunts your final days, a lightly dramatized horror that you face death as alone as you ruled. You respond with deep empathy for the maids who wipe your brow, their own fears hidden behind their service, a poetic reflection on the shared frailty of women bound by duty's chains. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that illness is like a server crash during a live stream, leaving you offline and exposed, a clever aside that masks the profound fear of fading. The wet wool motif mutates into the sodden linen of your bedclothes, clinging like the regrets you can't shed, a sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty taste of blood from a cough, symbolizing the relentless decay eating at your core. You navigate a tense visit from Cecil, his whispered questions about James of Scotland stinging like accusations, the injustice amplifying that your crown depends on outwitting those who see you as a dying star, your nerves prickling as you deflect with a weak nod. A modern aside creeps in. It's like being asked to update your will during a power outage. Ironic in how mortality mocks power, yet you press on, your resolve flickering like the fire. The shocking, sad element surfaces in a maid's whispered tale of a courtier's betrayal, plotting your succession before you're gone, a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart. The injustice of disloyalty, a burden you carry alone. You zoom out once more, the palace's silence a tomb for your strength, and empathy swells for the subjects who fear the void your death will leave, their lives tied to a queen who cannot stop time. The absurd tidbit in this moment, some believed sleeping with a live pigeon under your pillow could draw out sickness, a ritual as absurd as chasing viral health hacks, yet rooted in the same futile hope. As night deepens, the fire's embers fade, casting a strange visual of shadows pooling like spilled blood, and the psychological chill intensifies. How long can you cling to the throne before illness claims you? Shifting the mood to a weary dread of the end that looms ever closer, you face the final shadows closing in, your vision blurring as the musty air of your Richmond bedchamber grows heavier, the damp silk of your nightgown clinging to your fevered skin like a final embrace, a mutated echo of the wet wool that once weighed you down through battles and betrayals, now a suffocating shroud that mirrors the mortality strangling your once indomitable will. Did you know that in March 1603 you refused to lie down for days, standing vigil as if defying death itself? With historians debating whether this was a queen's last stand or a fear of sleep's kinship with the grave, the faint flicker of a single candle sputters, its wax pooling like congealed time, a mutated torchlight motif from blazing banquet halls and smoky camps. Now a dying ember that barely pierces the darkness. The metallic tang on your tongue, once sharp from iron quills and poisoned fears, now a bitter ash of blood from persistent coughs, prickling your throat with the injustice of a body betraying the queen who shaped an empire. Your legs tremble as you lean against a carved chair, its cold wood biting into your palms like the thorns of a crown you can no longer bear. The sensory struggle intensifying as your breath grows shallow, each gasp a battle against the creeping numbness that threatens to claim you. A physical event unfolds as you wave away a weeping maid, her rosewater cloth falling to the floor, its sweet scent clashing with the musty air. A shocking sadness that even your closest attendants now mourn you while you still breathe. The injustice stinging that a queen who outwitted armadas is reduced to a fading shadow in their eyes. The factual thread weaves in your refusal to name James VI of Scotland as successor, until your final hours left England on a knife's edge, with scholars arguing if your silence was a calculated power play or a denial of death's inevitability. A surprising twist revisiting the succession debates from earlier years, but now a desperate grip on control as your body fails. An absurd tidbit surfaces amid the haze courtiers believed placing a live eel in wine could cure royal ailments. A remedy as grotesque as trusting a TikTok health guru, yet steeped in the same desperate faith against the inevitable. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace's walls fading into a twilight realm where the Thames flows silently, carrying your reign's triumphs downstream like leaves in a storm, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the subjects who dread the void your death will leave, their lives tethered to a queen who cannot defy time. Sarcasm slips in as you murmur that mortality is like a deadline you can't negotiate, worse than missing a Netflix premiere with no replay button, a light commentary that masks the profound fear of fading into history's margins. The sensory struggle deepens as your eyes blur from the candle smoke, the damp silk chilling your fevered skin, the injustice amplifying that even a queen cannot command her body to endure. Your hands trembling as you clutch a locket of Dudley's, its silver cold against your chest. A sad element revisiting his love, now a ghost in your final hours. A physical act unfolds when you collapse onto cushions, too weak to stand. The creaking floor echoing your faltering breath. A lightly dramatized horror that your body, once a symbol of Gloriana, now betrays you before a watching court. The shocking truth that your reign's end is a spectacle for those plotting succession. You counter with clever commentary, quipping that death is like a bad review you can't rebut. A sarcastic nod that sharpens your resolve amid the creeping shadows. A modern comparison arises, it's like trending on X for frailty. Your every cough a viral clip, ironic in how a queen's end becomes gossip. Yet you endure, your eyes flickering with defiance. The absurd historical tidbit comes in a quiet moment some believed a monarch's touch could heal scrofula, a myth as futile as chasing viral fame for miracles, yet rooted in the same desperate hope. Academic uncertainty lingers as scholars debate if your refusal to sleep stemmed from superstition or sheer stubbornness. But you focus on the immediate, the prickling unease returning as Robert Cecil whispers of James, his eyes gleaming with plans for a new era, a betrayal sharper than any plot. You endure another physical strain as you gesture weakly, your voice a rasp refusing to name a successor, the damp air soaking your nightgown like the regrets you can't shed, the sensory overload heightening as the candle's smoke stings your throat, mirroring the toll of a reign that demands you remain eternal. A surprising twist revisits Mary Queen of Scots. Her execution you ordered now a haunting memory, a sad element that her son James may inherit your throne. A lightly dramatized horror that your greatest rival's bloodline outlives you. Adding to the injustice of mortality, you respond with deep empathy for the maids who fan you, their tears falling for a queen they love but cannot save, a poetic reflection on the shared frailty of women bound by duty's chains. Light sarcasm returns as you jest that death is like a server crash during your life's finale, leaving you offline forever, a clever aside that masks the profound fear of oblivion. The wet wool motif mutates into the sodden linen of your bedclothes, clinging like the legacy you fear will fade, a sensory echo of the burdens you've carried since childhood. The iron-on teeth evolves into the gritty taste of blood from a cough that racks your frame, symbolizing the relentless decay eating at your core. You navigate a final audience with Cecil, his whispered plans for James stinging like accusations, the injustice amplifying that your crown depends on those who await your end, your nerves prickling as you nod faintly, a gesture they interpret as consent. A modern aside creeps in. It's like signing off a group chat you've led for decades, ironic in how power slips away. Yet you press on, your resolve flickering like the candle. The shocking, sad element surfaces in a maid's whispered prayer, her voice breaking as she begs for your soul, a lightly dramatized plea that pierces your heart. The injustice of mortality, a burden you bear alone. You zoom out once more, the palace's silence a tomb for your reign, and empathy swells for the realm that fears the chaos your death will bring, their lives tied to a queen who cannot stop time. The absurd tidbit in this moment some believed a monarch's deathbed words could bless the nation. A myth as futile as posting a final tweet for immortality, yet rooted in the same desperate hope. As night deepens, the candle gutters, casting a strange visual of shadows pooling like spilled dreams, and the psychological chill intensifies. Will your silence in these final hours cement your legend, or unravel the empire you built, shifting the mood to a weary acceptance of the end that dawns? You reflect on echoes of triumphs and torments, the cold silence of history enveloping you like a frost-kissed shroud in the dim stillness of Richmond Palace, where the air carries the faint musty scent of dying embers. A final mutation of the wet wool that clung to you through battles, courts, and betrayals. Now a ghostly veil that mirrors the weight of a reign etched in blood and brilliance. Did you know that your 44-year rule transformed England from a fractured realm into a global power? Yet historians still debate whether your Virgin Queen persona was a masterstroke of propaganda or a prison of your own making. The single candle by your bedside flickers, its dying flame a final echo of the torchlight that once blazed through banquets and wars, now casting frail shadows that dance like the ghosts of your past. The metallic tang on your tongue, once sharp from iron quills and poisoned fears, now a faint ash of memory, prickling your throat with the injustice of a legacy that outlives you but cannot hold you. Your hands, frail and trembling, rest on the locket of Robert Dudley, its silver cold against your chest, the sensory struggle softening as your breath slows. Each shallow gasp a surrender to the relentless march of time that even a queen cannot defy. A physical event unfolds as you lie still, the damp linen of your bedclothes a final mutation of the burdens you've carried. The creaking bed frame silent now, a shocking sadness that your voice, once a thunder that rallied armies, fades into a whisper no one hears. The injustice stinging that a woman who shaped an era leaves no heir to speak her name. The factual thread weaves in your death in 1603 marked the end of the Tudor dynasty, with scholars arguing if your silence on James VI's succession was a final act of control or a weary acceptance of fate. A surprising twist revisiting the succession battles from your youth. Now a sad element that your greatest triumph for united England passes to a stranger's hands. An absurd tidbit surfaces in the haze. Courtiers believed a queen's deathbed could be adorned with rose petals to ease her soul's passage. A ritual as futile as curating a final Instagram post, yet rooted in the same desperate hope for immortality. You zoom out for a poetic breath, the palace dissolving into a vast tapestry where England's rivers flow with the ink of your decrees, and in that lyrical expanse, you feel deep empathy for the subjects who will mourn you, their lives forever shaped by a queen who loved them fiercely but alone. Sarcasm slips in as you imagine history as a group chat where you're muted forever. Worse than being shadow banned on X, a light commentary that masks the profound ache of leaving a world you molded. The sensory struggle fades as the candle smoke thins, the damp linen softening against your skin, the injustice of mortality a quiet truth you no longer fight, your eyes closing as memories of Dudley, Walsingham, and your mother flicker like fading stars. A physical act unfolds in your final breath, your hand loosening on the locket, its silver glinting faintly, a lightly dramatized horror that Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, slips into silence without a word. The shocking truth that your life's work, England's golden age, rests on a legacy you cannot touch. You counter with a final clever commentary, a whisper to the shadows that history is a script you wrote but won't see performed. A sarcastic nod that sharpens your peace amid the stillness. A modern comparison arises. It's like logging off for the last time, knowing your profile will live on without you. Ironic in how a Queen's End mirrors a digital ghost. Yet you surrender, your resolve dissolving into quiet acceptance. The absurd historical tidbit lingers. Some believed a monarch's death released a mystic light, a myth as fanciful as chasing viral fame, yet steeped in the same hope for transcendence. Academic uncertainty echoes a scholar's debate if your reign's brilliance overshadows its solitude, but you let it fade, the prickling unease gone, replaced by a calm that settles like dust. The wet wool motif mutates into the soft linen cradling you, a final sensory echo of the burdens you've shed. The iron-on teeth now a faint memory of battles won and lost. You reflect on a court once alive with intrigue, now silent. The injustice of time a truth you embrace, your heart no longer pounding but still. The shocking sad element surfaces in the maid's silent tears, their hands folding yours, a lightly dramatized farewell that pierces the quiet, the empathy swelling for a nation that will carry your name into eternity. A modern aside fades. It's like leaving a legacy tweet that trends forever, yet you feel nothing, your spirit drifting beyond the palace's walls. As the candle gutters, casting a strange visual of shadows merging into darkness, the psychological chill softens. Your triumphs and torments echo no more, leaving only the question of what history will make of a queen who ruled alone, shifting into eternal silence. The palace grows quieter now, its stone walls exhaling a final breath as the candle's flame fades into a whisper of smoke, curling upward like a soft sigh released into the night, and you feel the weight of Elizabeth's reign dissolve into the gentle hum of history, a realm settling into sleep under a new king's dawn. The damp linen of her bed softens, no longer clinging but cradling, a tender embrace that releases the burdens of a crown too heavy for mortal shoulders. The musty air thinning as the Thames flows silently beyond, carrying her legacy downstream where it mingles with the stars in different light. Your breath slows, matching the rhythm of a world turning without her. The echoes of her triumphs armadas vanquished, a golden age forged fading like footsteps in an empty hall, their sound muffled by time's patient tread. The locket lies still, its silver cooling, no longer a tether to lost loves but a relic of a life that burned bright. Its glow now a memory etched in England's soul. The shadows pull gently, no longer menacing but serene, like ink spreading across a final page, and you imagine her spirit drifting, untangled from the chains of duty, into a vast, quiet sea where queens rest without fear, the palace's towers blur, their spires softening into the night, and empathy lingers for a woman who loved a nation but never herself, her solitude a silent hymn that lulls you now. The stars dim, the air grows still, and the world exhales, its pulse a whisper of peace. You close your eyes, the hum of history fading, her story a soft lullaby that carries you to sleep, a final breath like a sigh in the dark.